Hello everyone and welcome to the Waynesburg Effect. I'm Ryan Schwertfeger here alongside panelist Brendan Keeney and Andy Stanko. Season 3. Really exciting. If you've never watched this show before, we're going to bring up a current event topic that has an effect on the nation, the community, or even us as college students. Each panelist is going to get an opportunity to give their opinion on the issue at hand, and I guarantee you we're going to have a friendly debate on the topic. Now, we all have our own opinions, but we make sure that what we say is backed up with facts so that you, the viewer, can not only be more informed, but also capable to form your own opinions on how the topic we discuss affects you, your family, and your friends. This is the Waynesburg Effect. We're less than 30 days away from the election, and the race is closer than ever. Now, since the last time we talked with you, I'm sure you're fully aware that Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are the major party nominees, and that Clinton selected Virginia Senator Tim Kaine to be her running mate, and Donald Trump chose Indiana Governor Mike Pence to be his potential vice president. The conventions were held with much controversy and criticism, though mainly for what happened inside the convention hall and not what happened outside or around it, as many had feared going into it. Now, campaigning has begun and the official debates are underway, but the race is far from over. Questions have arisen about Hillary Clinton's health, her emails, and her Clinton Foundation, and whether the public knows or is aware of the full truth. Donald Trump continues to be pounded for his inappropriate remarks made on the campaign trail, his refusal to release his tax returns, which may show he owed nothing to the federal government for more than a decade, and also his own foundation and whether funds raised were used illegally. Now, voters have other options like Libertarian candidate Gary Johnson and Green Party candidate Jill Stein, but unless any of them can win any electoral votes, either is sure to take away votes from either Clinton or Trump this November. So I'm going to start off really quickly, just kind of placing the race where we are. Recent polls show that in a two-way race, Hillary Clinton is up 2.5 points over Donald Trump, 47.5% to 45%. When you factor in the third-party candidates, Clinton's at 43.4%, Trump at 40.9%, Gary Johnson 7.3%, and Jill Stein 2.4%. Now, the most recent presidential debate happened. It was the first presidential debate. By the time this airs, we would have already had the vice presidential debate occurring already, the one and only vice presidential debate. And Gary Johnson did not do well enough to make the main stage, so we are stuck with both Clinton and Trump on all of the main debate stage. And that probably is going to be the way it's going to go forth going for the rest of the campaign. So I'm going to start with you, Andy. I know you watched the debate. There's still 2 more debates to go, but a lot of people say, especially with early voting, however you make that first impression is going to go a long way. So I'm curious, what could you take away from that first debate that we were all so amped up to see?
Well, Ryan, you put out the numbers. Trump has a little bit of an uphill battle going into November, and my takeaway from the debate, unless you were already on Donald Trump's side, I don't know if anything he did or said in the debate really ingratiated himself to his voters. Either you like the attitude, the temperament, the whole package, what he's going to bring, that's that. What we saw from Donald Trump in the debate is Plan A, be Donald Trump. Plan B, don't be Hillary Clinton. There is no Plan C. He didn't come to the debate prepared. He didn't come ready to talk specifics. He didn't craft a platform that can connect with voters beyond the base that's already gotten him to the place that he is now. I don't really see how he can connect with those undecided voters. He's out of the GOP, and I think him even being the nominee from that side is a referendum on the GOP. And you learn about having too many candidates, having how the role the media can play in legitimizing a candidate in Donald Trump. And what we saw in the debate was Hillary Clinton, flaws and all, was ready to go, ready to talk specifics, had a plan, had talking points, and executed. And Donald Trump, he did Donald Trump. And I'm not sure that's what the majority of electoral voters in this country are going to go for. And I thought Clinton took the first debate. And if you're Donald Trump, why would you even compete in following debates? If I was on his team, I'd try to get out of them because I don't know what you're doing out here with this.
Well, he's already committed, saying he's going to do
the
following debates.
But he better get his act together and be more informed.
He has to be a lot more prepared for
exactly.
That debate. Much more prepared. And that's one thing that I take away, kind of going off of what Andy said, is that Hillary Clinton absolutely showed that she had been on this stage before. She had been prepared by her team, and she was ready to roll. Donald Trump, not so much. He, like you said, Andy, he had a real chance to spit out some specific policy. He could have done that, and I think that could have brought some people to his side, but I think you said it perfectly when you said that I don't think that there's any way he's going to pull new voters in. At this point, it's either you're voting for Donald Trump or you're looking for someone else. I can't imagine too many people who are undecided after watching that debate were like, oh, Donald Trump blows my mind. This is the guy I want to vote for. And one thing I hate putting stock into like soft skill polls because that doesn't mean a whole lot to me. But one of the draws to Donald Trump as opposed to a person like Hillary Clinton is Donald Trump's charisma. But these polls reported by Gallup said that Clinton scored big when it came to the qualities she exhibited during the debate. On all of the characteristics Gallup asked voters about, Clinton prevailed over Trump. She appeared to be more inspiring, 46% to Trump's 34%, more likable, 55 to 36, more presidential, 59 to 27, and exhibited a better understanding of the issues, and this is the big one, 62 to 26%. And those are pretty big, especially since Donald Trump is supposed to get voters with his charisma and not being from the establishment.
And here's a point as well. The GOP now, they've been out of the presidency for 8 years. Hillary Clinton isn't as strong of a candidate as Barack Obama was. Obama defeated her in the primaries, and he was a better orator, a better politician, someone who got the voters out. So this was a chance for the GOP to really strike back against someone who perhaps some fatigue setting in with the Clintons, the Bushes, the dynasties here in politics. And instead, they bring to the table Donald Trump, who's really one-dimensional, is how I would describe him as a candidate. And you saw it there. And Hillary Clinton, I will say this, she was able to hit her big points. For example, you want to talk about taxes, we can bring this into the discussion. There wasn't a specific question about the taxes. She wove them into one of the answers, and then it became a conversation, and now it's even bigger with the New York Times coming out of it. That is strategy, that is pre-planning, and when you're in the office of president, you need to be prepared. You need to be qualified, and you need to work to be ready for whatever comes up, and it was clear Hillary did that, and Trump still has a ways to go in the next debate.
Well, the question I'll ask both of you in regards to the debate. So, I think everyone agreed for the most part. I mean, Donald Trump was citing all these online polls saying that he won, but all of the actual polls that came out all said that Hillary won the debate. However, I have to wonder sometimes, it's been a week now or so since the debate. Clinton's only lead is still only 2.5%, and everyone thought she did fantastic. Trump didn't do as well at all. So I'm just really curious, do you guys think, you kind of brought up that if you were already on one side, it probably didn't change it too much, but everyone just agreed that Hillary looked a little better. As we're kind of come to the end of the segment a little bit, I'm just wondering, do you think the American people, do they want the polish? Even though everyone agreed Hillary looked better, do you think that people want that, or do people like the unvarnished? And only a few seconds quick for
Well, here, there are some that really do want that unvarnished take. Trump is setting records in terms of small donations, but 95% of GOP donors who were active during the primaries are sitting out or supporting Clinton. That tells me so much about the machine behind the conservative side. They're not behind Trump, but there is a powerful vocal base behind him. So we'll see if that is enough to win this election, because only 60% of people came out the last time around for the presidency.
And very quickly, Mr. Keeney?
Well, when we talk about debates, I've never been a huge believer that debates can actually sway a ton of popular opinion. I think debates are good for two things: people who are undecided and people who for reaffirmation, and they can get excited about going into this election and showing up at the polls. And I don't think that neither of these candidates really did a tremendous job of pulling voters in, but I think Clinton definitely did a better job of reaffirming her position for the Democratic Party.
And one last point. This was the most accessible debate ever, the most watched debate ever. I think being first, it was extremely important, and Trump didn't come up like he needed to come up to win this election.
Well, there's two more debates to go, so
see.
we'll always have a chance. Everyone thought Mitt Romney won the first debate, and obviously Barack Obama was still elected president. Now, just a quick programming note for all of our viewers. If you like this discussion, and I know we're talking about millennials coming up too, you can tune in right here on WCTV election night starting at 8 p.m. We're going to have live election coverage hosted by yours truly. We're going to have some great discussions, a variety of different guests, and we're going to keep you posted on the nationwide vote as well as the local elections that matter to you. So election night, 8 p.m., but right here at WCTV. I'm still pointing to the right location. We'll be here in the studio. We'll be right back for a segment on about the important millennial vote right after this.
You can't do anything right.
Stupid.
You're the biggest
Just
moron
give up.
I know.
Stop trying. There's no point to it. You're never going
What
to
is
be
wrong
anything.
with you?
Why even bother? I mean, you won't amount to anything.
You're a failure. Trash.
Just give up.
You're worth nothing. You will never amount to anything. You are not worth anything.
It's a criticism that gets sent down through the generations. Kids today. This phrase is a euphemism for the disapproval that older generations feel towards younger ones. In today's climate, millennials hear a ton of criticism from older generations because we're arrogant, entitled, disconnected, and the one perhaps heard the most, selfish. The question I want to pose is this: are we, millennials, actually this way, or is this just a false perception? Ryan, what do you think?
I think it's kind of a mix of both. I think, obviously, the perception is added onto it a bit more, maybe a bit more inflated than I think it is. But I think it's because of the way we've grown up, what our parents went through. I mean, it always kind of, one generation always affects the next in some sort of way. The baby boomers were really big on saving, and the other generation wanted to spend a lot, and then, latchkey parents, and then our generation, we're all winners, and things like that. So I think it does, a little bit kind of carries over, but at the same time, I think it's always overinflated what it is. But I know we're talking about the election and what the importance is of millennials in this election. I believe this is the first election where it's almost about equal between both the baby boomers, which was obviously a huge generation, and the millennials, our generation, another really big generation, and we're about equal this election time. However, come next time around, millennials are going to outweigh the baby boomers. So I think it's important, although in 2012 only 46% of eligible millennials went out to vote, it's very important because we are going to be that main voter bloc going out to vote. So as of right now, a poll that I saw said 56% of millennials are currently going for Clinton, 24% are undecided, 8% are for Donald Trump, 8% for Gary Johnson, and 4% other. However, what I did find was interesting is that, if you're ahead by that much, 56%, and you're in the Clinton camp, you must be feeling pretty good. But not quite. Obviously, if you look at how these other ones went, Clinton went against Bernie Sanders in the primary. Bernie won millennials 71% to 28%. That is a shellacking. And
I think that proves a point, though.
And
just
it does prove a
carrying
point.
millennials won't get you there.
Correct. Well, I think it goes both. I mean, you do need that voter block to help you out.
President
but
Obama.
what's going to be really big this time around is, all right, she's going to win millennials. I don't think anyone's going to argue that more millennials are going to vote for Hillary than vote for Donald Trump or Gary Johnson or any of the other ones. But if what we're all wondering is these people who are supposedly going to come out and vote for Donald Trump, these white, working class, blue-collar people, how many of them are going to turn out? And if millennials don't turn up as much because they're not as interested, does that flip a state or two to Donald Trump, giving him enough electoral votes? That's what kind of remains to be seen. And that's why Hillary is trying really, I underline really hard trying to get the millennials out. She went on Between Two Ferns, which is something I'm sure if you ask your grandma, she has no idea what the heck that is. But
Have you
we're
seen
all
that,
smiling.
Katie?
We're all smiling.
Hillary Clinton on Between Two Ferns?
I think so.
Yes.
With Galifianakis?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Exactly.
But we're all smiling because we know what that is. And she is trying so hard to appeal to our generation. And the question is just whether, she's going to get that vote, but just how much and if that plays an important impact. And that's why she's working so hard.
Andy, what do you think about voter turnout for millennials this year? Do you think that they could have a similar effect like they did on Obama in 2008 and even giving Bernie Sanders kind of a prominent rise in the polls, at least for this election cycle? What do you think?
Well, in terms of the millennials, I don't think Hillary's going to get the same boost that President Obama got because of President Obama's ability to speak, because of as good of a politician as he was. The thing is, with millennials, there isn't that overriding reason for them to go out and vote. Mm-hmm. I know Bernie Sanders wanted to make it economic and about college and about this and about that. But you look at the other generations, the baby boomers especially, they have something to go out and vote for. That they are in a routine. They've got time to go out and vote. Every third of the month. Do you know what that is? It's Social Security Day. Every third of the month. And they are committed to keeping that check going and going and going. If nothing else, that's why they continue to go to the polls. And for millennials, you don't see that. And for millennials, it is challenging. I just went through the paperwork to get the absentee ballot. It's not that hard. You have to go online, print it out, mail a letter. But that's still 3 different steps. And that's that's something that stands in the way between millennials going out and do it versus, the baby boomers going out and doing it, which is why those older age brackets have dominated in the polls in terms of voter turnout, and more of the same, I would expect.
And if I can tie in a little bit on this too, Hillary is also trying to make a big appeal. I mean, yes, to millennials, but even young women. How often have we heard her continuously bring up the true point that she's the first major party candidate to get the nomination for president, which is definitely a historic feat. However, what's interesting is, she keeps pushing this, and like our parents, our grandparents, they recognize that it's important, and I think our generation does too. But because we're so much more used to seeing women in a CEO position, in these high-level positions as senators, governors, etc. I mean, obviously, women still have a few things they have to try and get through, but for us, it's like, yeah, eventually in our generation, a woman will be president. So for them, it's not as important as Hillary, I think, is really pushing. And both are right to an extent. Yes, it would be historic if it was a first woman president, if Hillary Clinton won. But to people in our generation, yeah, it's important, but does it have to be her? It could be someone else.
That's an interesting point. And one thing that I do want to mention is that even though millennials don't go to the polls as much as generations in the past, there's actually been a ton of research recently by the Washington Post that shows millennials are more active in government than past generations by calling congressmen, by organizing protests, and by just going out and volunteering. In fact, millennials have increased volunteering rates almost twofold in the past 20 years as compared to other generations.
Now, I'll say this. We talked about this with the debate in terms of accessibility for people to watch the debate. You could get it on Twitter. You could get it online, any TV channel. There are opportunities now for millennials to get involved. We're all part of a program here at school where we go out, we get to visit Washington, D.C., have conversations with people. So I would say we're certainly moving in the right direction. But the thing is, as we mature, we get out of the age group of that 18 to 24 that doesn't vote. And that's new 18 to 24-year-olds get cycled in every single year. And it's just a cycle of that, and they're the group that doesn't vote. So,
all right, well, coming up next, we're going to talk a little bit about sports and politics.
Oh, sweet, pizza. What the?
Hey, how about you try this banana?
Gee, thank you.
No problem.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot better.
If you be good to your body, it will be good to you. Make smart choices when selecting what you will eat. Visit choosemyplate.gov for more information on the best foods to bring out the best you.
2016 has been a very eventful year in the world of professional sport. It's hard to even pick a spot to begin. Peyton Manning rode into the sunset with a Super Bowl win. The NCAA tournament ended on a buzzer beater. The Golden State Warriors finished with 73 wins and lost in the finals despite a 3-1 lead. Kevin Durant chose to join the Warriors just months later. Kobe Bryant and David Ortiz are among the iconic players to call it a career in 2016. The Olympics were this year. The Chicago Cubs won over 100 games but are still searching for a World Series title. It's been fun to say the least, but 2016 also marks an important year in sports in terms of its place in society when it comes to tackling some of the most important problems in society. That's right, I want to talk about Colin Kaepernick and the national anthem. I want to talk about the NBA and ACC taking major events out of North Carolina. The actions of players and organizations are in response to systematic racism by law enforcement and infringements upon human rights stemming from House Bill 2 in North Carolina. So guys, what was your reaction to Kaepernick and the NBA taking definitive stances on current issues that impact those across our country? Were you surprised by what they did, how they did it, and the responses? Brendan Keeney.
I think I'm always surprised, and I think you should be surprised, because if you're not surprised by athletes taking a stance on an issue, then is it really an issue worth taking a stance on? Colin Kaepernick kneeling for the national anthem, I am all for the cause. I do believe, as you mentioned, Andy, there is systemic racism in the United States that needs to be taken care of. It needs to be addressed. And I do think that athletes have a lot more influence on society and on culture that goes beyond their individual sport. We just saw LeBron James endorsed Hillary Clinton, which I've never seen something quite like that, I don't think, where a specific athlete chooses to to endorse a specific candidate, and I thought that was interesting as well. But one thing I do want to mention about social protest in sports, it's not something that's new. In 1906, Peter O'Connor, who was an Irish long jumper, the British had not let go of Ireland yet, let them be a sovereign nation. And he was Irish. He was born in Ireland, and Britain said that they have to use the British national anthem in order to compete. So he did, but he tied an Irish flag when he won, and he tied it up to the top, and he was surrounded by people. It was a pretty crazy scene, and this was in 1906. That was over 100 years ago. It's not anything new in sports. And then, of course, Tommy Smith, John Carlos holding up the Black Power sign in the Olympics was also huge, and they got a ton of backlash. But one thing I do want to mention, that photo, the iconic photo of them holding up their fists in protest, was the most circulated photograph in Olympic history. That's how much influence they have. It's not a sporting part of the event that was the most photographed or most reproduced. It was their protest, which I think is incredibly influential.
Well, I would have to say, I mean, Colin Kaepernick, for that example, he definitely has the right. If he doesn't want to do the pledge, he has the right to do that. And I think when we hear all these stories about, he has death threat, like that's uncalled for. And I don't think it should be the other way around as well. However, I think at the same time, because of what that anthem stands for and the people who fought for his right to do that, I think it's disrespectful to the veterans who are fighting for our right, the national anthem stands for this country, to almost, in a way, I understand why he's trying to do it, but I think it ends up giving them some disrespect instead of doing that. And there were some interesting clips of what different sports teams have done in terms of talking to their players, introducing them to veterans and saying, this is why we stand for the national anthem. But really quickly, if you don't mind, on the North Carolina front, I think if the NBA wanted to move, it's certainly within their right to move so. But I think it's not really punishing the government per se, which is what they probably want to do in order to exercise their point. It's not fair to the business owners. And I think that's the problem. Because when you get that big event and you're one of those business owners, you're looking forward to getting that nice revenue stream, that bump in income. Especially the economy is still just a little fragile. And I don't think that's really fair to the business owners that for something that they had nothing to do with, they're going to lose out on millions and millions of dollars. And we're going to see what's going to happen. Obviously, it was a big deal that North Carolina House Bill 2. However, interestingly enough, the governor who signed the legislation had gotten flack for it. Last I checked, he's still up 2 points in the polls. So I'm curious to see if this becomes a dead issue if he wins re-election, because obviously then the public supported what the governor signed.
Well, one thing I do want to mention in response to your Kaepernick take, which was kind of my take originally, and then I saw a ton of support for Kaepernick by veterans. The hashtag Veterans for Kaepernick. There was a lot of sparked outrage because of that, and I think a lot of veterans actually had his back. One thing you said, he's sitting for the national anthem. Kaepernick decided that he was going to kneel instead of sit so that it would still be respectful to people who have fought for our country, but he'd still get his point across. That's one thing. And then second thing, for North Carolina, it doesn't matter if it causes anything. It's just embarrassing that organizations are taking sports out of your state because of how backwards you are.
And like I said, it doesn't punish the people I think they want to try and aim it towards. I think it punishes the secondary people. The fans who want to go, the businesses who are going to benefit from it. And I don't really see that it's going to harm the people that they think that they want to target, saying that they disapprove with what the law is.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for this conversation. I think it was very good, and I think it was very important that each of these organizations stood up for what they believed, players and owners, because you look at the issue of race in America. Perhaps the most visible athletes or visible African Americans in this country are athletes. 69% of the NFL players are black. 74% of NBA players, including marquee guys, are black. And I think it is a great thing that they're taking a stand. But we will wrap up this segment, go to our closing segment, of course. We're each going to pick something fun and have a go at it. You're watching the
Welcome back to the Waynesburg Effect. We're going to wrap up, each of us with an interesting little quick mini topic we want to discuss. So first I'm going to go. As I'm sure all of you loyal viewers know who watch WCTV, I'm a proud and lifelong New Jerseyan. And it was very saddening, but yet sadly not very surprising when the news came out recently about the train crash at the Hoboken train station. Now, New Jersey's motto is the Garden State, which is true if you have been around our great state, but for many, their New Jersey experience is just okay, because you've driven through or taken a train through our state on our packed highways, bridges, and mass transportation systems. While New Jersey had another crisis recently within the state for several months as lawmakers debated how to fund and how much to fund the account that pays for all of the transportation projects in the state, it is important to note that not just in New Jersey, but around here in Pennsylvania and around the country, that our infrastructure is so important to our everyday lives and the commerce that goes on around the clock. While most politicians are going to debate how much to spend and which projects to spend it on, all I ask is that they keep in mind the taxpayers that are footing the bill. I'm sure most people wouldn't mind a small hike in the gas tax or in federal spending to replace our aging tunnels and bridges and roads. But when they see the money is misspent, when money that could go to other projects all wind up being spent on one project because of cost overruns, or the worst scenario, when money is stolen from one fund to pay for something else, trust collapses and willingness to give in another dime vanishes completely. I know in my state people feel that way, and I'm sure you might as well. And it's sad, because if money was not misspent and these funds were funded properly, one life could have been saved there in Hoboken, and hundreds of others would have not had a tragic and injury-filled experience that they are likely to never forget. So to lawmakers who are watching, get to work and fund these projects that have an effect on all of us and all of our lives and our well-being. But keep in mind that where that money is coming from, my pocket and your pockets.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm a little salty. I've been at that Hoboken train station many a time. I was there just at least probably 6 times. And I remember just looking at that stop at the end being like, that is not going to stop a train. So when I heard that news, I mean, it was really sad. I feel for that lady's family who passed away and all the people who were on that train. I know people who take that train. But it's like, that should have been addressed a long time ago. Why not?
Absolutely.
Andy, why don't you lead us in this one?
I'm going to shift gears. We had a conversation earlier in the episode about the debate, and it was between presidential hopefuls Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. But maybe my favorite storyline out of that whole debate was the battle between the venue, Hofstra University, and of course the media. Hofstra allowed journalists and others in the media to use Wi-Fi on campus for a low price of $200 a pop. Should the media need a wired connection, that's an extra $125. For a landline and internet, that's $600. Of course, there was a group discount. For 20 or more, $3,500 was enough to cover you and all of your friends. Here's the kicker, though. Officials from the school had technicians monitoring the area with equipment to detect and shut down free hotspots, which might not be legal. The FCC forced the company to pay a fine of $750,000 for blocking Wi-Fi within a building last August, and the FCC Enforcement Bureau was investigating the matter. Hofstra took the first debate as a result of Wright State not being able to handle the projected security costs. I now see how they planned to offset some of those costs. If charging $200 a pop and hunting down those with the means to reach the internet legally, let's get going on Waynesburg getting a presidential debate. HD television might be closer than you think with those profits. Hofstra is the only university to ever host three presidential election cycles, but let's make 2016 that debate the last in Hofstra for quite a while, gentlemen.
I would love Waynesburg hosting a debate.
Yeah, you'd like Waynesburg to host.
I would love, but I'm not going to be here. But I'm just curious. Do you know if other schools do the same thing? Do they charge the media?
Well, you need to have a secure internet connection, and that's the song and dance they gave to offsetting those costs for the internet connection. But $200, come on now. That's all I'm saying.
So Mr. Keeney, do you want to close us off?
I would love to close off, and I'm going to talk about the killer clowns that have been circulating around. It's been I'm sorry, I'm taking a little bit of a different approach to this, but mostly from the research that I've been finding, it's not a big deal. Mostly, it's a way to get publicity. Dressing up as a clown is not an illegal offense, and if cited, it's almost a guarantee to be on local or national news. And according to the acclaimed news organization, People magazine, these clowns begin to appear in times of uncertainty. In the 1980s, they appeared during the Satanic Panic, but these are things perpetuated by social media. It's likely that this will die down in the next couple weeks or months, but it's likely to come back again as well. So just take these sightings with a grain of salt and don't worry too much. That's all I got to say.
I'll say this. I've also read an article about legitimate clown companies really suffering because of these amateurs or these jokers participating in tomfoolery.
Bozo would be ashamed.
Yep. So I've seen some groups, they will only participate in parades during the daytime and travel in packs so as not to scare or alarm anyone, because they mean no harm.
That's a good choice.
Well, from clowns to transit to
$200 for your Wi-Fi.
$200 for internet. I think that does it for all of us here on the Waynesburg Effect. Thank you for watching, joining Mr. Brendan Keeney and Mr. Andy Stanko. We'll see you next time here on the Waynesburg Effect. I'm Ryan Schwertfeger. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of Waynesburg Community Television.